Holiday look by some of the fans here at Giant Stadium, many of them making their way to the parking lots. As Deuce McAllister with a 9-yard touchdown run. Reggie Bush has scored. Drew Brees hit Marcus Colston. Carney with a couple of field goals, all after the Giants took a 7-0 lead. This Giant team was 6-2 at one point this year and leading the Bears 13-3 late in the first half on November 12th. And people were talking about the Giants winning the division, maybe having home field advantage. Bears scored a touchdown and second half ran away from the Giants, and they have been in a tailspin ever since and headed for their 4th straight loss here at home. Billy Cundiff kicking off to Sonoris Moss at the 4. Returns it to the 30. Some of the problems the Giants have experienced today, Troy.
Well, there's been a lot of them. I mean, that's where it all started there with the fumble by Chad Morton. And, you know, Jeff Beagles has gotten off a couple of bad punts. But, you know, I mean, you look at this team, and it's not just isolated to this game. I mean, when you look at, you were talking about some of the problems they've had, you know, since going 6-2. I mean, this is pretty reflective of what's happened in most of those games. A lot of penalties, a lot of undisciplined play, turnovers. Just, it's been pretty consistent from that standpoint all year.
Tiki Barber for a couple of yards. And you're right. I mean, you've seen the Giants in a lot of the games lately. It seems that they're always alive. Every game is a pivotal game for them. Many of them are here at Giant Stadium, and they're headed for their 6th loss in 7 games. Probably still be alive if they lose this one. And the fumble, loose ball. Saints may have it.
I mean, it just keeps getting worse.
And the Saints recover. Looked like Eli Manning wasn't ready for that snap.
No, he wasn't at all. The ball was snapped when Eli wasn't even looking to get the ball snapped to him. The ball is now getting ready to be snapped at his feet.
Charles Grant will recover this one.
I mean, I tell you what, this is supposed to be an NFL football team, and it's you try to say some things that are positive about this group, and they make it awfully hard on both sides of the ball. I mean, this coming into this game, boy, you didn't think things could get a whole lot worse than what they've already been, and yet they've found a way today to show that it absolutely can get worse.
I think the Giant performance today speaks volumes, summarizing the problems they've had. Deuce McAllister with the carry as the Saints get the ball at Giant territory at the 24 as a result of the turnover.
You know, how about if you're Tiki Barber? I mean, we came into this game talking about it being his last home game here at Giant Stadium, and he was hoping to have a big day, and the season up to this point had not gone as he had hoped, in it being his last season in the NFL. And, you know, you got to wonder what's going through his mind right now as he sees how this game has unfolded. I mean, when he looks back on his career, he obviously won't remember this game, but what a disappointing finish here for the home crowd.
2nd down and 9. Deuce McAllister again. And in talking to Tiki, he talked about the frustration, the roller coaster year, and he says, we have the talent. We've heard that before. We haven't put it together. But look at the production of McAllister and Bush. Last week, 28 touches, 101 yards. Look at today's numbers.
Yeah, they've done a number. And Reggie Bush, I mean, as we've talked about, he's gotten better each week, and then he's just exploded here today. And it wasn't something that I really expected. I know this Giants defense against the run up until last week had done a pretty good job, but the Saints have exploited it again here.
3rd down and 6 on the 20. Pump fake by Brees. His pass and intended for Jamal Jones, knocked away, incomplete. And covered by McQuarters and Butler, and Butler mostly. So 4th down coming up. And John Carney will come on to try to add to the Saints.
Well, and another drop ball, Dick. I mean, this ball was placed between 2 defenders right where Jamal Jones had a chance. I mean, there was no defensive hand on that ball. it hits Jamal Jones right in the fingertips. He's unable to bring it in. I tell you, Sean Payton, he's not holding back, is he?
No. 38-yard field goal attempt by Carney. And Carney 3 for 3 today. And the Saints have raised their lead to 30-7 over the Giants.
It's a glitch.
It's not a glitch.
It's got to be a glitch. You just keep hitting the same button.
Just learn how to play the game. Come on, man.
Now this is my size net.
This is my backhand.
I saw it coming. This is my other team. No boys allowed.
That's my shoe.
Here we go. This is my rink.
This is my walk home from the arena.
One of us got to make a hell of a catch.
Great one-handed catch. Catch, baby. And he caught it on the deflection. Fantastic one-handed grab.
All he needed one hand. He don't need two. He just needs one.
An unbelievable catch. A scintillating fingertip grab. One-handed catch. Oh, my. Diving caught. Touchdown.
God almighty, what a catch.
And welcome back to Giant Stadium. Dick Stockton along with Troy Aikman and Pam Oliver. The Saints have run off 30 straight points since the Giants touchdown on their first possession. Been a rough day. Eli Manning 9 of 19, 74 yards. And the Saints capitalizing on that mix up the fumble, and returning is Sonoris Moss. Breaks away from one would-be tackler and goes out of bounds. Well, on Sunday, January 14th at 8, 7 Central, don't miss the explosive 2-night, 4-hour season premiere of 24. A new day begins Sunday, January 14th at 8, 7 Central, right here, only on Fox. Viewer discretion is advised.
This game kind of feels like 24, doesn't it? Huh? Just goes on and on.
24, yes. First quarter was a lengthy quarter. That was 7-3. First down, and Manning under big pressure tries to get it out to Barber, but it was Brian Young who very nearly got the sack and knocked Eli down.
Well, they had a chance if they'd been able to at least get the completion there to Tiki Barber, if he'd have been able to hang on to it. And, you know, Eli Manning gets pressure in his face by Brian Young and, you know, was able to get it out. But again, Tiki Barber unable to make the catch. But out in front of him, you know, he had some room there to pick up some pretty good yards had he been able to make the catch.
2nd and 10, Barber on the inside handoff. Picks up 3 yards. 2.5. Early here in the fourth quarter.
Well, I think the fact that they ran the ball there and they're not going into a no-huddle offense pretty much indicates that they're going to just run this one out.
The white towel has been tossed by the flag holder.
And who might that be?
The one on the sideline who got knocked down earlier. Also doubles as the down marker guy. Manning sacked at the 29. Scott Shanley got in there. And for a lot of the Giant fans, this is hard to watch, but for the New Orleans Saints, who want to have the home field for the divisional playoffs. They've never had the bye or played at home in the second week of the playoffs. And since the 12-team playoff format went into effect in 1990, all but 6 of the Super Bowl teams have had first-round byes. So that's significant.
Well, and they'll know tomorrow night. I mean, if Dallas loses to Philadelphia tomorrow night, then they will clinch the #2 seed.
Ball bouncing at the 40 and fielded finally by Michael Lewis. Of course, the Saints, they win out, they'll have it regardless of what the Cowboys do tomorrow.
Good oral health is part of your overall health. Philips Sonicare. Sonicare helps to improve your oral health. Its patented sonic technology creates dynamic cleaning action, getting deep between the teeth and along the gum line for a healthier mouth. Simplicity is brushing your teeth and helping to take care of your body at the same time. Philips Sonicare. Ask your dental professional about good oral hygiene. Nurofen. Fast, targeted relief for pain.
Freedom for backs. New heat patches from Nurofen.
Experience all the best live NHL games on NASN. Log on to NASN.com for scheduling, news, and information.
Well, the New Orleans Saints did so much for the spirit of the people of New Orleans when they came back and they beat the Atlanta Falcons 23-3 in their first home game. That was a signal game. They said this is great for the Saints. Little did anyone know that the team that won 3 would go on and have the mammoth year that they have had in the regular season. Deuce McAllister, who has a touchdown and went over 1,000 yards for the 4th time in his career, picks up 3 yards on the play. But Sean Payton coming to New Orleans, and the combination of Drew Brees, what a great acquisition he was. Reggie Bush, Marcus Colston, kind of magic what happened in the Bayou City, Troy, this year.
Well, and Drew Brees is the guy who's made it all happen for them. I mean, they did a great job of assembling some talent, particularly in the draft. I mean, who would have thought that Marcus Colston and then Jari Evans, the right guard, would be starters on this team and then be 2 of their better players. Of course, Reggie Bush has been productive, but I mean, Drew Brees has been the guy who's pulled it all together and has been the leader for this team.
2nd and 7 to McAllister again. And the Saints were always a team that sooner or later the other shoe would drop. But this was a year in which the Saints played as if they had been in the playoffs for many years. They played with that kind of poise all season long.
Well, I think if you go back to preseason, you know, I was talking to some coaches that played against the Saints in preseason. They thought it was one of the worst football teams that they had seen in a long time. Now, at that time, they did not have the linebackers that they currently have with Scott Shanley and Mark Simoneau, along with Scott Fujita. They did not have the development of those rookie players that I talked about. But this was a team that brought in some players there after preseason got started, and they've really contributed to this team.
McAllister stopped short of the first down, and 6 new starters on the defensive unit. And how about that offensive line? And of course, you mentioned Jari Evans, Jeff Fain, a great acquisition in a trade from the Cleveland Browns, and we know Jamal Brown's headed for the Pro Bowl.
Yeah, it's been a good group, and again, nobody expected that this team would be as good as what they are up front, but they've come together, and you know, that's the key for this offense, regardless of whether you got Reggie Bush and Drew Brees and Marcus Colston, all these guys. If you don't have people up front that are blocking for the skill players and allowing them to do their thing, then you're going to struggle. And just the offensive productivity overall, you would then say, wow, this offensive line has been terrific, and they have.
Steve Weatherford kicking to R.W. McQuarters. Will let it bounce, and it will go out of bounds. And you'll normally find that the teams that have good years are teams that have healthy offensive lines, and that's what the Saints have had this year. So let's take a look at this playoff picture. New Orleans could wrap up home field in the divisional playoff if Dallas loses, but let's take a look at the wild card. The Eagles are 8-6. Giants could drop to 7-8 with a group of teams, including the Packers, the Panthers. Atlanta lost today. San Francisco can still play and go to 7-8. The Giants, believe it or not, still would be in position in the number 6 slot.
And it shows you there's going to be an 8-8 team in the playoffs.
Yes. Tiki Barber working his way outside and going out of bounds, getting chased there by Fujita after 6 yards. Barber 62 yards today on 15 carries, averaging a little more than 4 yards a clip.
You know, I asked Tom Coughlin when we visited with him on Friday, you know, how you get your team prepared and how do you come in each Monday trying to be optimistic, knowing that if you do put together a couple of wins, you can get into the playoffs, considering the fact that you've lost 5 out of 6. And he said that's the challenge of trying to come up with a different way of presenting it. And you know, Lord knows how he's going to go in then this Monday after this performance and try to instill in his players the fact that they do have an opportunity, as unlikely as it seems the way that they've played. But if they win in the final game of the season, they could very well find themselves in postseason play.
Now, Bob Whitfield is shaken up, and you're right, but this week he said, I've tried to encourage the team as much as possible, stoking the opportunity. But, you know, what can you say? I mean, at what point, and, you know, you're going to end up 3-5 at home, which is not a, you know, not a good record at all for a team that wants to be in the playoffs.
Well, you wonder, at least based on the way this team has played, you wonder if these players even want to go to the playoffs, because it certainly doesn't look like it based on what we've seen.
Believe it or not, the Giants have not run one play in New Orleans territory all day. 2nd and 4, Barber. First down, Barber to the 47, and the Giants are flirting with that issue as they're close to midfield. A 9-yard pickup for Tiki Barber. And there is Charles Grant congratulating Tiki. 50 plays run by the Saints in Giant territory, 0 to this point the other way around.
Well, they're getting closer to seeing that happen.
Right. Small triumphs. Under 7 minutes to go in the game. Manning, and Tyree drops it. That would have been an opportunity, but David Tyree with a drop. They tell us that since they started keeping statistics on drop passes in the last 15 years, that 15 is the record for the most drop passes in a game.
Well, you just wonder, I do anyway, watching this. You know, when you have a season like this, generally it's not status quo when you go into the following year, and yet this is a team that believes that they got a lot of talent, but they haven't been able to put it together, and you just wonder what this team's going to look like next season.
I think they're at 15 drops right now for both teams, and I think we broke the record because Tim Carter could not hold on, and I believe that's the 16th drop in this game by both squads.
Yeah, we talked about Tiki Barber, and now he's going to get a chance to come out and try to make a block, and you know, he just gets run over there by Scott Fujita. You know, that's something that Tiki Barber has always been very good at throughout his career, and it's an element of running backs that doesn't get talked about enough, the job that they do in pass protection. That's one of the reasons why earlier in his career he was a 3rd down back, because he was always so good at picking up blitzers.
3rd down and 10. And the pass batted down, intended for Tyree. Eli Manning, and a flag is down with the incomplete, and Whitfield, I guess, was all right coming back, and we'll see what the penalty is all about. Whitfield already called for the headbutt earlier, and still challenging Will Smith.
Personal foul, unnecessary roughness, number 70. Contact after the play was over. 4th down, 15-yard penalty.
Second time for Whitfield in his 15th NFL season. And don't forget making his 6th start for the injured Luke Pettigrew out for the year.
Well, we'll take a look and see, what it was exactly that happened. There he is, number 70, and again he comes back in on Will Smith, and I think it's time to probably put Bob Whitfield over there on the sidelines.
4th down, Jeff Feagles in to kick once again. So it has gotten, shall we say, unattractive for the Giants here as this game wears on. And Feagles punt, fair catch, Michael Lewis at the 40. So with all of those 7 and 8 teams, who knows what next week will bring, but these are the games. Panthers, Saints, Cowboys play the Lions, Packers and Bears. Packers alive. Falcons lost today. The Eagles will play Dallas tomorrow. 49ers play later. Game with Denver could mean something. So that's the new look, and it's great for the season. No one likes 8-8, but you have all of those fans in all those cities still thinking they have a chance.
Yeah, I've always felt that way. I like the fact that so many teams are alive. I don't like the fact that in the NFC, it's some pretty bad teams that are alive.
Giants finish with the Washington Redskins on the road. McAllister for 3.
I thought it was interesting, Dick, coming into this game. There was a lot of discussion about Tom Coughlin and what his future was going to be in the late Wellington Mara. One of his criteria for the coaches was that as long as they're in contention going into their last home game, he thought that was something that was very important each and every season. That was kind of the criteria that he had for not only his head coach but for his club. And boy, you watch this today and you just wonder what Wellington Mara would have thought sitting here watching this.
Well, the Giants have several decisions to make, of course. Ernie Accorsi retiring as the general manager, so there'll be a new general manager here with this club. Hand off to Deuce McAllister going off the right side. 1st down and driving to the 45. So Deuce McAllister having a big day. In fact, the Saints rushing for 232 yards today, have 2 players over 100. McAllister with exactly 100 and Reggie Bush with 126.
Well, if there was a game that the Saints needed, after that disappointing loss last week to Washington, to really get themselves back on track, and even though Drew Brees' numbers, don't look that good today, obviously a number of drops, they would have been much better, but the way that they've run the ball, they've got to feel awfully good now going into their last game of the season next week, and knowing that if they win that game, then they clinch the number 2 spot.
McAllister for about 2. And it's the Saints host the Carolina Panthers, but you have to really respect as tempers flare once again, and we've had a lot of this in the second half. You have to respect the way the Saints bounce back for what Sean Payton was their poorest showing of the year last week against Washington.
Well, I don't think there's any question. I think that's one of the great things that Sean Payton has done, this season. I don't know what it was like before Sean Payton got to New Orleans, but in talking with players, they say that Sean Payton has brought accountability, and he has made certain that guys come out knowing their responsibilities, and there's an expectation of how they're going to go out and perform each and every week, and for the most part, they've done that.
Again, McAllister, and the Saints will keep this on the ground. 2-yard pickup with under 4 minutes remaining in the game, and it seems like after every play we have jawing or worse going on between players on both teams. Pierce in this case.
Yeah, it's Pierce and Carney on the collision, and Pierce is just trying to get up there and draw a collision, and Carney does a pretty good job on him, and that's what Antonio Pierce didn't much appreciate, but obviously well within the rules of play.
3rd down and 7 on the Giant 41. Again, McAllister, and picks up a couple, bringing up 4th down.
Well, Sean Payton just waved off his punt team. It looks like they're going to run the ball here. See if they can't go ahead and take some more time off the clock, and the way that they've run it, not so sure they don't pick up the 1st down anyway.
Well, the Giants and Saints have had some signal games in recent years. Last time they played was the Saints home opener. Remember that, after the Hurricane Katrina? Saints were the home team here in the Meadowlands last September when the New Orleans won 27-10. And their prior game was the Giants' first home game after 9/11. Fourth down handoff to McAllister is short, and the Giants will take over on downs. And in this game, Saints hopefully taking the step to what they expect will be a bye and home field advantage. A lot depends on the Cowboys and Eagles. Today's game is being produced by Richie Zients and directed by Artie Kempner. The technical producer is Joe Stevens, the technical director is Rich Basili, and the audio mixer is Fred Alduis. Associate directors are Greg Scopatoni and Derek Manning. Production coordinator Francisco Contreras. Broadcast associates are Zach Fields and Rich Gross. The coordinating producer of the pregame show is Scott Ackerson. The producer is Bill Richards, and the director is Bob Levy. Studio technical supervisor is Jack Simmons. Pass knocked down at the line by Charles Grant. The senior producer of Fox Sports is Bill Brown, and the executive producers of Fox Sports are Ed Gorin and David Hill. Thanks to Chris Visser, our spotter, Rick Odioso, our statistician. And most of the fans here at Giant Stadium have departed, but smiles on the faces of the Saints. Deuce McAllister, Reggie Bush. Came to New York today, in the New York area, and put a spanking on the Giants. Manning's pass, and that's intercepted, intended for Shockey. Fred Thomas. So the Giants turn it over for the third time this afternoon with 2:19 to go in the game.
You know, the previous series, they were pretty content running the football, and then now this series, they decided they're going to try to move the ball a little bit. But, you know, how about the job Sean Payton has done against some of his former teams as we take a look at the interception, trying to get it to Jeremy Shockey, and just a ball that was thrown behind him. But, you know, think about it. Sean Payton, of course, a few weeks ago against Dallas, and the job that he did against them, and then what he's done here, and then even, you know, going back to the game they had at home against the Philadelphia Eagles. Sean Payton spent a little time with Philadelphia as well as an assistant coach, and well, he's had tremendous success this season against some of the teams that he spent some time at.
Well, he's from Naperville, Illinois, so maybe he'll have a chance to go up against the Chicago Bears in postseason.
He very well might.
2-minute warning will be the next stoppage. Michael Strahan coming back after missing 6 games. The Giants were 1-5 without Strahan. They'll be 0-1 since he's.
Druids Glen Golf Resort, voted European Golf Resort of the Year 2005. A golfer's paradise in the Garden of Ireland. 2 championship golf courses of contrasting design. The luxurious Marriott Druids Glen Hotel and Country Club, featuring 148 specially appointed guest rooms and a magnificent spa and health centre. Visit our driving range, pro shops, golf academy, and get your golfing tips or tuition from our resident PGA teaching professional.
As well as being a thirst-quenching soft drink,
Yes, right, Dave.
a Sprite is also a sort of goblin. This Sprite is not so refreshing at a festival. And it definitely hasn't got any taste.
Here we go. Right and left and right and right. Left and right and right and left.
Try new Sprite Z. Great Sprite taste, 0 added sugar.
Live NHL continues on NASN with an exclusive doubleheader from across the conferences. First up, it's to the east where the Canadiens head to Washington to take on the Capitals. Then Calgary flame up as they enter General Motors Place in Vancouver to battle the Canucks. A live NHL doubleheader this Wednesday night only on NASN.
2 minutes to go in the game. How delighted, Troy, do you think the Saints and their fans are that they were able to draft that man?
Oh, I think they were thrilled when that man fell in their lap. I'm still shocked that the Houston Texans didn't take him. I thought that they certainly could have used him, but when he fell to number 2, there was never a question that the Saints were going to take him. It was not even up for debate. And he's played exceptional here over the last several weeks, and he's only going to get better. He's a phenomenal athlete.
Talk about collegians running into the brick wall as the season goes long. He seems to have gotten better as the season has gone on. And Reggie Bush is a keeper, and what a perfect guy to have down in New Orleans, which needed a symbol like that more than anything else.
Well, and I think the way that Sean Payton has used him, Sean Payton went back and watched all of his games from USC. He thought that Pete Carroll and that staff did a great job of utilizing his skills, and so they implemented a lot of that within the offense here in New Orleans, and that's why he and Deuce McAllister have been able to coexist, and it's worked for both of them. And so Sean Payton deserves a lot of credit for the way he's brought Reggie Bush along, and the fact that here we are in the 15th game of the season and he's not worn out.
And the Saints fans who have come to not so much cold weather, temperatures in the low 50s when we started, and to come back after the loss. Mark of a good team is that they don't get into long losing streaks, and the longest losing streak the Saints experienced this year, 2 games. Long day for that man.
Yeah, a long day for that entire organization. It's been a long 2 months for that organization. It'll be a longer offseason.
Well, Jamal Brown, Will Smith, and Drew Brees headed for the Pro Bowl for the Saints. Jeremy Shockey and Tiki Barber for the Giants. This is the most rushing yards by the New Orleans Saints in a game since 1990. 236, and that will do it. So Tiki Barber's last home game as a Giant is a disappointment, and the Giants will drop to 7-8 on the year, and amazingly are still alive for the final wild card berth.
Tiki Barber was telling us on Friday how he was very much looking forward to his next career, and that's going to be television, and no doubt in my mind he's going to be exceptional. By the look on his face there, it looks like that can't come soon enough.
Well, he knows when it's time, and he said, I didn't want to be told that it was time to go. He said it's a young man's game, and when you don't have the passion for it anymore, it's time to go. And Jim Finn carries, and that should be the last play of the game. So the Giants drop to 7-8 and still alive for the final wild card berth. The New Orleans Saints will go to 10-5 and will be anxiously watching the Cowboys and the Eagles tomorrow night. If the Eagles win, the Saints will clinch the 2nd seed, a bye, and home field in the 2nd week of the playoffs. Reggie Bush, 126 yards, his first 100-yard rushing game in his career. The Giants led 7-0, and then the Saints reeled off 30 as Payton and Barber meet at midfield, and we will hear from Reggie Bush and his comments when we come back to Giant Stadium in just a moment.